Great Central Railway in the heart of England runs between Loughborough and Leicester North, passing through the stations of Quorn and Rothley. This is the only double-track heritage railway in the world where two full-size steam engines can pass each other, just as they did in the golden age of steam. It's run by 40 full-time staff and 700 volunteers.
Hello, Loughborough Central.
We can put on a really big show.
It's a long way to one end to the other.
We can make a lot of noise.
These things are enormous. They're 150 tons. They fizz, they hiss.
There's nothing else that compares on preserved lines to this with a double track.
With over 20 steam locomotives, wagons, dining cars and passenger carriages, there's an ongoing programme of preservation in the engine sheds, as well as a station building to restore and events to organise, from classic steam galas to wartime reenactments. All in a year in the life of the Great Central Railway. The hub of the preserved Great Central Railway is at Loughborough. The site houses a signal box, engine sheds where locomotives are restored and maintained, and the station itself, with 2 platforms, waiting rooms, a refreshment room, a museum, and the station master's office.
Any further passengers wishing to travel on the 11:30 departure to Leicester North, your train is now standing at platform number 1.
One of the biggest events in the Great Central Railway calendar is Loughborough's Summer Steam Gala. And one of the highlights of this year's gala is Mail by Rail, as the railway reenacts the high-speed delivery of post by train. In the engine shed, the staff and volunteers are preparing for this busy day. The team are hoping for a turnout of thousands, and with half a dozen engines to prepare and a world first with the Fairburn tank engine, there's plenty of work to do before the public are allowed in. And it's one of the hottest days of the year. Pulling passenger trains today, Sir Lamiel is one of the King Arthur class of locos, so called because the locomotives were named after characters from the Round Table. Volunteer engine driver Kevin Tilbury has had an early start.
I'm the driver of Sir Lamiel today, and my job starts about 3 hours before we're ready to move off shed. We come in and check round the engine, look after the fireman, check he's okay, help him to clean out the fire because this engine was running last night, so we have to clean the ashes out of the fire and get it ready, and then light a new fire in it. And once I know the fireman's happy doing that, my main job then is to check around all the engine and oil up about 50 different places where we add oil every day to make sure that all the bearings are properly lubricated. And while I'm doing that, I'm looking for anything that might be requiring maintenance or have come loose or be damaged, getting confident that this engine's suitable for a day's work.
Kevin is one of a number of volunteers from different backgrounds who fulfil roles at the railway. Each one plays his or her part, from drivers and firemen to ticket collectors, guards and administrators.
I'm a volunteer. I've been here, this is my 6th year. So it's not that long really. I mean, a lot of people have been involved for many, many years, 20, 30 years.
I'm guard, bottle washer, shunter, painter, loco painter.
One of the beauty of working with volunteers is you meet people from all walks of life, and they've always got different outlooks on things, and I think the department here works really well together.
For some volunteers, their day jobs are very different. But for Kevin, it's a bit of a busman's holiday.
I'm a systems engineer designing control systems for trains. So unfortunately I work on trains in the week, which wasn't my first choice, but it's very different to the hobby at the weekend. And in the week I want to hit things with a hammer to make them better, but I know it won't help, whereas here it often does.
While Kevin and the team are preparing Sir Lamiel for the day ahead, there's another engine being spruced up for the gala. It's the Fairburn tank engine, owned by Stephen Mayer and his family.
This is Fairburn Class 4 tank engine. It's one of only two that are left in the world, and both this and its sister engine are based on the Lakeside and Hatherthwaite Railway up in Cumbria, and this one has come down here to Loughborough to have some work done on it, and as a result of doing the work from the crew down here, it's running now for a few months down on this line.
An important aspect of the Great Central Railway is the renovation and maintenance of old locomotives. Some of those are based on the railway, but others are brought in from elsewhere.
It's 85 tonnes, London Midland Scottish Railway design, so quite special, quite unique.
This is the first time the Fairburn tank engine has visited the Great Central Railway, and part of its duties for the gala is to deliver the post. The railway is recreating mail by rail, when the post was collected by train and sorted on the journey, working through the night. This travelling post office, or TPO, was restored at nearby Rothley and is owned by Railway Vehicle Preservations. Today, it's delivering the post at high speed. That means the Fairburn tank will have to work a little harder than it's used to.
Normally, for over 40 years, it's been running at less than 25 miles an hour, which we're limited to on the passenger carrying trains on the light railways. And this weekend, this local should be doing the mail drop, where the train has to run a fair bit faster in order for the mail equipment to work. So it's the first time it's been able to stretch its legs officially. I think, given that this is the first time this locomotive's been away from its base in Cumbria for many decades, means it should bring a lot of people out looking to see it. Nice weather as well, looking to see it on a different line.
There's great nostalgia for the glory days of the travelling post office.
I'm 55. I remember steam on the big railway just. That was when I first started train spotting, mid-60s. Steam was still around, but only just. But it's nostalgia to us. We're just big kids.
Bob Hall remembers working on the travelling post office, sorting the post as it sped through the night.
When I worked on here back in '85, you'd probably get about 30 or 40 bags. And it was all go. You had 10 people working in here, from end to end of the coach. The most senior man would work in the corner, and he was a corner man. He was the guy that did all the registered work. The next more senior man would work on the short letters, and going down to the long letters, the packets, and the junior man would work on the line. 21 years ago, 1988, 255 mail trains round a day. Now, you've got about 3 or 4 containerised trains, all gone. Everything disappeared. 2004. I was the last man.
Started with the Royal Mail in 1969 as a messenger at Halifax. Then I transferred to Bradford. I went as a driver, and then I thought I'd seek me fame and fortune in London, because I've heard the streets are paved with gold. So I transferred to Mount Pleasant, and I thought, I could go on the TPOs from here. So I couldn't get nights in the office, so I went on the TPOs because it was guaranteed nights. It was good banter. And it was banter all night, but it was a really close-knit community.
We do get ex-TPO guys coming down the railway for galas. They'll come up to us. Any chance we can have a ride? Yes, of course you can. Hop on. It is growing. Since I've been involved with the TPO on the Great Central, I started in 2002. We've got a lot more people involved. People we've worked with. We've got chatting to them. I'll come along. I'll have a look at that. I'm interested in this. Can I join you? Yes, of course you can. And we have got a lot more people involved now. And it is growing all the time. Not just the TPOs, but railway preservation as a whole. Locomotive department, the signalling, the station staff. People are interested. Even young people who don't even remember steam locomotives. They're still interested and they want to be involved. And that's what it's all about. Enjoyment.
While the delivery of the post by rail is kept alive, there's another bit of railway heritage being brought back to life nearby. Lovat House was a former railway goods office, which had fallen into disrepair. But things are about to change. Railway members raised over £100,000 towards the purchase of the building, and a project to restore it is underway.
This is Lovat House, which was built by the Great Central Railway in 1895, and it opened as their goods offices for the extensive goods yard that was at the back of this building and which served Loughborough Central Station. What we've done is to take this building back into our own ownership and to restore it back to offices. We're in desperate need for office space. We're squeezed into the station at the moment, and this will be our new headquarters. So the restoration project will be to take the whole building back to its original Victorian condition. And there's a lot of potential in this building, I can tell you. The team has done wonders, exposing all the original, for example, glazed bricks and all the other features. It's really most interesting.
Coming up, with about 10 months restoration work ahead, the railway volunteers open the doors of Lovat House to the public to share their vision. The crowds gather to see the postman's drop at high speed. And it's a world first as the Fairburn tank engine double heads with the N2 locomotive. It's Gala Day at the Great Central Railway in Loughborough. It's the highlight of the summer calendar, and hundreds of Heritage Railway enthusiasts have arrived to see the vintage steam engines in action. The theme of the day is Mail by Rail, celebrating the heritage of railway postal deliveries. There's a busy timetable all day, with 2 engines reenacting the Mail by Rail postal drop. The first journey with the TPO, or Travelling Post Office, was in 1838, and it continued until 2004. To deliver and collect the post, as they did in years gone by, these engines need to go like the clappers. So it's vital everything works, especially the brakes. Martin Ashworth is one of the drivers on shift for today's gala.
That's the vacuum for the brakes. At the moment, it runs to 21 inches on the gauge. So 21 inches is the brakes fully off, apart from the Great Western, which were 25 inches. But on all the rest of the railways, it was 21 inches. We have to work between 18 and 21 inches for the brakes to work correctly. And all this arrangement here is the brakes. We create a vacuum and then we destroy it with this brake valve here.
If you take your eye off a steam engine for a minute, it can make a fool of you. And, you know, you really have to be very vigilant. One of the attractive things about this is it's mental and physical. You've got to be on the ball, but obviously you've got to be reasonably fit. And, you know, it helps keep me fit.
This is the only preserved railway with a double track where full-size steam engines can pass each other. It's a full-on experience for the crew, and it's essential they work well as a team, with the driver responsible for starting, stopping and controlling the speed, and the fireman for the fire, the steam pressure and the water levels in the boiler. Throughout the day, Pete and Martin make several trips carrying passengers along the track between Loughborough and Leicester North. It's hot and thirsty work for everyone involved.
Drinking hot tea cools you more than drinking a cold drink. Now, I don't understand why that is, but that is the theory.
It's 8 miles from Loughborough to Leicester North, and the mail drop is going to happen at Quorn, about 2 miles down the line from Loughborough. At Quorn Station, an expectant crowd is gathering for the big event. It's almost time for the high-speed mail drop.
We've got the green light all the way through Quorn now to Rothley. We've got the road all the way. So we're slowing down a little bit now. And in probably a few seconds' time, the driver will put the controller hard over to the stop, make a lot of noise, and we'll accelerate up to exchange speed, which is 35 miles per hour. And then it's stand by and don't blink, because you'll miss it.
The collection and drop of the bags happens in a flash, and everyone's ready with their cameras, hoping to catch the moment. In case you missed it, here it is one more time. Winches on the side of the travelling post office hold the mailbags ready to be dropped into a net on the track, and the bags to be collected are scooped up and they land inside the travelling post office. The crowd have got their photos, and a moment in railway heritage has been reenacted for a new generation. As summer continues, plans for the restoration of the old railway goods office continue apace. Lovat House has a grand opening day to show the public plans for the restoration. Railway volunteers Alex Pakes and Sean Sanders are showing visitors around.
We've got a couple of tour parties going around for people that have either donated money to the appeal fund to help buy the place and want to come and see what they've invested in, or have turned up for the day, seen it on the radio, just want to come down and have a look at the building. We take them round, we show them what we're doing. It's nice to share the work we've done. The second of the two toilets in the building, very similar in plan to the one downstairs. 3 cubicle walls, urinal, and a large roof lantern that would have made the place quite nice and airy. It's quite a big piece of work, but in terms of joinery, it's not that complicated. All the support beams are still in, you can see those. So the foundation's there for us, which make life very easy.
There was a partition wall here when we first came in, stud wall, knocked it out, and it just gives you the full benefit of the size of the room.
The old goods office will undergo a careful renovation. It's being called Lovat House after a stalwart supporter of the railway, Richard Lovat, who, together with his father Bruce, had a key role in making the Great Central what it is today.
Since we bought it 4.5 months ago, we've removed the asbestos roof. We've stripped out all the modern finishings inside, which had already been heavily damaged by thieves looking for copper. We've restored it to some extent to how it was when it was built in 1895. Really, we're just preparing it now for the main contractors to move in. From the railway side, nobody's been paid. The vast majority has been done by volunteers in their own time for no pay. In places it's been chopped about, and there's a big doorway missing on the wall here that we need to put back in. One of the biggest single expenses we've got is buying used glazed bricks to save size. But we have to do it.
All Great Central loos and washrooms, they're always made of glue bricks, glazed bricks. Yeah. So we've got an awful lot of paint really.
It's the railway heritage we're talking about here. The impact that the railway had on not only Loughborough but any other town down the line is amazing. It's not only Lovat House here, the goods offices, but the station and the hotel opposite. All the local housing and all the local architecture is the Tucker's brick, which is a local brick, and it has the same style. So they're all looking the same. Wonderful Victorian architecture, stone sills, Dutch gables and so forth. It's just a lovely building.
Back on the platform at Loughborough Station, there's a buzz of anticipation. The newly restored N2 tank engine is going to be coupled up with the visiting Fairburn tank. Originally, engines might be coupled together when the load of the carriages was too much for one engine alone. But today, it's purely for the visitors to enjoy the spectacle of the two engines steaming together.
It's going to be a real thrill for the railway enthusiast today, having 2 new engines out, which is very rarely put to running order on this line.
The N2 and the Fairburn have both undergone recent overhauls, and both have a big following. This will be the very first time they're double-heading. But before the coupled engines can set off, the track needs to be cleared. The two engines are now steaming together at last, with hundreds of excited passengers in the carriages behind them. And this is a world first. Next time on Central Steam, the diesels are out in force.
Very busy, very hectic, and we're putting on a bit of a show today.
And there's drama at the station.
The loco's got a problem.
205 departure, platform 2 has been cancelled.
Grab it.
Yeah.
Load him in the loop.
Yeah.
Jocko can then come off, grab him from the loop, put a pair of them back in 3 road and shut down.